Hey guys, welcome back to another DVD Disney reading. Where this time we're gonna be reading a review of the DVD of, in my personal opinion, a very underrated live action Disney film, The Santa Claus 2.
Uh, yeah, for those who are curious, Santa Claus 2 or Santa Claus is a franchise that stars Tim Allen. For those who know, he is the voice of Buzz Lightyear in the Toy Story franchise, but he's also the Santa Claus himself in the movie. Without further ado, let's get started. There's no shortage of Christmas movies in the annals of film. And given the season's fondness for nostalgia and the saccharine, many of them can now be considered industry classics. The 1990s introduced two films that would not instantly join the company of said classics, but even moved towards the head of the pack. Released in 1990, Home Alone was the first and most successful, and it is followed by Disney's Tim Allen comedy, The Santa Claus, 4 years later. Both are holiday traditions for many today, despite their relative infancy, and in accordance with their popularity, both were revived in the form of a sequel. Home Alone actually has three to date, but we'll pretend those last two never happened. While Macaulay Culkin waited only 2 years before being left alone again in a world of box office success, Disney waited nearly a decade to issue The Santa Claus 2, which became 2002's holiday hit, grossing over $172 million worldwide. The first Santa Claus chronicled the passing of one Santa and the training of his successor, and is an unassuming and doubt-filled marketer named Scott Calvin. You'll recall that the added E in the film's title refers to a stipulation that obligated the reluctant Calvin to Santa's role after the last one fell off his roof. The North Pole surprise wasn't Calvin's only problem, though. He had to convince his ex-wife Laura and her new husband Dr. Neil Miller that his aging appearance were truly the result of his conversion to the bona fide Santa rather than an attempt to mislead their son Charlie. Santa Claus 2 falls off of its predecessor but still hits the mark, thanks in large part to the return of the entire original cast. It picks up inside a different and unfortunately inferior North Pole set at a time when the Millers know the truth of Scott Calvin's Santadom and work with him on raising Charlie, now a troublemaking high schooler. The narrative is again built upon a combination of internal and external conflicts. Another clause that Mrs. Claus considered as a subtitle for the film while in production poses a problem for Scott, who learns that he must find a wife by Christmas Eve or he will cease to be Santa, which explains in the Finding Nemo trailer he had to question he's got to get married. In attempting to solve that problem, he creates another for himself when he takes the advice of his head elf Bernard and another polar advisor Curtis, and creates a toy-ish clone of himself to attend North Pole operations while he returns to America to mentor his son and search for a Yuletide bride. A fondness for regulation leads the imposter Santa to declare a state of martial law in a workshop and judge every youngster to be more naughty than nice. Scott must overcome both obstacles before the big night if he wants to keep his spot on the top of the world and save Christmas. Much of the original Santa Claus festive appeal came from the sense of wonder conveyed in Scott and Charlie's discovery of the North Pole, which is naturally diluted by the time the sequel rolls around, and the existence of Santa's domain is, well, old news. A little of that magic is regained, however, in the introduction of Charlie's school principal, Carol Newman, a hardened believer in the tough love approach to discipline and a target of Scott's martial aspirations, who slowly comes to see that Scott Calvin is a man more complex than she had originally assumed, and in more ways than one. Mitchell works well with Alan and is a welcome addition to the cast. The other key component to the original success was its humor, aided by the comedic touch of Tim Allen. Calvin may be a kinder soul in this film, but his biting sarcastic edge hasn't been lost, nor had the gated quips exchanged between he and Neil. The first film never faltered in this department, but this one does more than once when it tries to package jokes or gags specifically for a younger audience while peppering the same scenes while something packaged specifically for adults. For example, the council meeting between Santa, the Tooth Fairy, Cupid, and various other legendary creatures presents a section of intentionally dumbed down script and cartoonish visuals, while at the same time having Mother Nature refer to herself as being pre-El Nino. Okay. Fortunately, these unflattering sequences are short-lived and infrequent, and some of them, like Tooth Fairy role, even pay off in the end. It does score points for a cameo by the always funny Molly Shannon. In all, it's a film capable of delivering its fair share of laughs and even more smiles. It's also adventuresome, and the duo of adventure and humor always makes for fun. The cast will all deliver capability, and from the seasoned adults to the child actors. Though Eric Lloyd has a trouble pulling off an overly dramatic scene that details his personal ends, but the problem lies more with a weakness in the screenplay. The fact that this film succeeds in the end and that its cast will return again to theaters next year holds promise for the Santa Claus 3. Right. The anamorphic 1.851 widescreen transfer is a pretty good one. The biggest problem is that the picture looks a little softer. I almost said lot. Why would I say lot? Anyway, a little softer than would be preferable, particularly on larger screens. It's a very colorful movie, though those colors sometimes seem subdued, which, whether intentional or not, works inside the North Pole to give it that cottage feel. The transfer is largely satisfying and gets a stamp of approval. For those with a fondness for interior, this disc is sold separately in full screen format. Which, again, I mean, that explains why you can also see Cars in full screen or widescreen, depending on which one you want to get, as opposed to Monsters, Inc., where you actually get two screens in one, or two formats in one, and Finding Nemo, you get two discs, where one's wide and one is full. Anyway, audio comes by way of a THX certified Dolby Digital 5.1 surround track, and it's a wholly commendable one. The sound is crisp and clear, audio levels are set appropriate, dialogue is always audible, and the score comes out quite nicely. Channel separation is most pleasing, and the surround sound is enveloping, letting each channel thrive amidst the bustle of the North Pole. Stupid virus scam pop-ups. I don't know why they get that on my phone. I'll ignore that later. Anyway, I mean, I'm always ignoring it anyway. Amidst the bustle of the North Pole, no complaints here. That's where I was at. The audio commentary begins with director Michael Lembeck. I would say, I almost said, I hope I didn't say Bick back there. Anyway, discussing how he and his crew secured permission to borrow Santa and his elves for a film and shoot on location in the North Pole. That sounds like a fun way to start a commentary track, but after 10 minutes or so, it becomes clear that Lembeck intends on discussing this film as if it's an entirely authentic for the entire duration. Now, it isn't the intention of this review to dispute the existence of Santa Claus, but only to say that Tim Allen isn't truly him. The track quickly grows tiresome and shies away from any insightful observations. I said operations. Observations in favor of needless repetition, not reputation, and pandering towards children, most of whom don't bother with this feature anyways. And those who do will likely be confused when they find that Santa Claus used to play on Home Improvement and films like Christmas with the Cranks and Toy Story. Let's not forget. Interested viewers are advised to check out only select scenes on the commentary track. Allow me to suggest chapters 1, 10, 11, 16, and 19 and save their time on the rest. The remainder of the disc's bonus features go to great length to maintain the same illusion as well, though it's much more likable in these, which don't run nearly as long as you thought it would. And still, more serious discussions of the filmmaking process would have been far preferable. Curtis, the true elf, gives a tour of the North Pole, and all of the cast and crew who are making a movie playing themselves inside it. This translates to a behind-the-scenes featurette, though it's much more make-believe than making of. This same can be said for True Confessions of the Legendary Figures, which interviews Mother Nature, Cupid, the Tooth Fairy, and the Easter Bunny, followed by Father Time and Sandman on their roles as legendary figures. For a second, I was thinking of Rise of the Guardians for a minute. Wait, that's the wrong movie from DreamWorks. Why did I say that on here? But anyway, the third segment keeps the same tone. Director's tour of Elfsburg. Elfsburg? Okay, then. Is a status report videotape that Lembeck supposedly made to Saint Disney to quiet their fears over the elves quarreling inside the North Pole, and it plays out in much the same way as Curtis's North Pole tour. All three of these are quite funny, as they highlight tensions between various North Pole characters, like the power struggle between Curtis and Bernard, and the arguments between the legendary figures. It's hard to say whether the comments are scripted or off the cuff, but are fun to watch either way. Spencer Breslin is especially amusing here. The most worthwhile features are the fairly standard gag reel and a collection of 7 deleted scenes. Play them individually or all at once. Each scene is essentially a repeat of the scene that made the cut into the film, and so none of them introduce any new context. And Lembeck's chapter skippable introductions before each can said as much. Still, it's nice to have them available, as some of them, especially the dating game, are amusing and slightly more edgy than their in-film counterparts. Together, along with Lembeck's introductions, they total just under 12 minutes. The final bonus feature is Operation Toy Box, Save Santa Game, which provides a radar screen from each players who can choose from several mini-games, all aimed at foiling the clone and maniacal Santa from ruining Christmas. The game is fairly simple, but is very slow to load and frequently hangs up. You better be off bypassing it. If you want a few more games and activities, you can try your hand at the 4 that are offered as DVD-ROM extras by putting the disc in your computer. Santa Libs creates a personal ad for Santa, which multiple choice fill in the blanks. Coloring Book offers 4 virtually colorable images that you can print out or simply digitally enjoy. Why do I need a printer for that? Reindeer Games requires .s. You try to put 4 reindeer with different color noses into their proper stalls by trying different combinations from the 6 choices. Holiday Rush is like JT's blocks on Yahoo Games. Only the blocks feature secular holiday imagery like snowflakes and red and green drums. None of these 4 activities are worth putting the disc in your computer and if you're not a fan of games. But the DVD-ROM content here is certainly above average, preferred to the lone DVD video counterpart. It should please the computer savvy. The disc includes previews for Lion King 1.5, as always, Lindsay Lohan's version of Freaky Friday, Spy Kids 3D, even though it isn't by Walt Disney Pictures. What are you doing here? ABC sitcom According to Jim, the DVD game of Lilo and Stitch Island Adventures, and a Santa Claus 2 themed Disney hand promo for the Toys for Tots program. The first 3 of those play automatically when the disc starts up, and all 3 of them are accessible from the sneak peeks menu. The animated 16x menu screen uses the exterior of the North Pole, yes, the actual pole, along with some lights, snow, low flying of aviation, and a section of the score. The bonus features can be accessed from there, and selecting that sub menu drops you below the surface to the workshop below, where music plays, but there's no animation. All the other menu screens are still as well, though they're all nicely decorated. To return to the main menu from any other screen, just find the not at all that hidden object in the bottom corner will take you there. The bonus features menu also contains an Easter egg which merely allows you to try out the machines seen in the film, which can shrink, enlarge, or duplicate an item. While the Santa Claus can be considered a recent holiday classic, its sequel cannot. The Santa Claus 2 scaled down from a PG to a G rating and decided to focus a few efforts on kids only. That might have been a bit harsh there, Aaron Wallace, don't you think? Okay, I'm probably saying that too soon. Anyway, rather than the family as a whole, which often spells disaster for family films when mishandled, fortunately, these occurrences are rare in this film, and it succeeds overall. And as a magical film worth making part of an annual viewing tradition, the DVD makes the same mistake that the film sometimes does, but to a larger degree, as it robs bonus features of informative value. But many of them are still fun enough to be worthwhile. Besides, for a DVD that isn't even labeled as a special edition of any sort, or collector's edition, if you want to call that, of any sort, there's a surprising amount of extras included: deleted scenes, gag reel, behind the scenes footage, and a solid audio and video transfer too. All that adds up to a recommendation for this disc, though it comes with a suggestion of caution. Remember that the Santa Claus 3 is on its way to theaters in under a year, and it just might bring with it some sort of re-release for the first 2 films in time for Christmas 2006 or 2007. This was reviewed on December 31st, 2005. Dang. Like 20 years already.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this was the shortest one yet.
Almost 20 minutes, yeah.
It's like 19 minutes by this point.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get the DVD this month. I don't know. Either that or 2 disc Toy Story DVD. It's hard. Anyway, anything else to say before we end this off?
No.
Alright, guys. That was our review of the Santa Claus 2 DVD Disney reading. Our reading of the Santa Claus 2 review on DVD Disney.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, we can do the DVD Disney reading of Wally, maybe. So I'll see you all next time, tomorrow. Bye, guys.